This is a fully 3D hologram, complete with video games, 3D models, and this really freaky Marquez. Except it's not a hologram. And in order to understand why it isn't, we have to start by understanding, what even is a hologram? Okay, look, holograms are tricky. There's like the dictionary technical definition of what a hologram is, and then there's the idea of a hologram that we all have in our head. And I mean, look at this thing, just look at it. That is a hologram. But technically, it's not a hologram. Everything that you think is a hologram actually isn't a hologram. Miku at Miku Fest, that was just rear projection on a transparent screen. Pak at Coachella, that's Pepper Ghost, transparent screen. That Razer waifu thing at CES, I don't exactly know how that works. I'm pretty sure it's like a transparent OLED or mini LED screen inside a tube. Not only are none of these actually holograms, they're all not even 3D. Those are all 2D images just on transparency. If you looked at it from the side, it would be flat as a board.
Yeah, but I've been to CES. Like, I feel like I must have seen a hologram.
I wish that were true, Marquez. None of the things you've seen so far in this video are actually holograms. And that's because a hologram is less of a specific device and much more of a technique we can use to record 3D information. If you were to ask a trad holographer, they would say that something like this is your bread and butter hologram. There's no screen, there's no projectors. It's just a way you can make a flat surface look kind of like a window. You'll get some perspective shift as you move side to side, but you're not gonna see any Japanese singing, dancing, Vocaloid sensations on it. The way real holograms work is actually really interesting, and it all comes down to capturing depth information and then recording it using these things called interference patterns. So when you take a normal photograph, effectively what you're doing is recording brightness information. But to take a 3D photograph, you also need to capture depth information. Well, how do you do that? Lucky for us, light moves at a really constant speed, which means in order to find out how far away something is, all we have to do is time how long it takes for the light to reach us. But what do you do, since light moves really, really fast, if you don't have a clock fast enough to time that light? Well, the holographic answer is to take a laser and to split it into two identical beams. One of those beams is gonna bounce off the object you're making a hologram of, and the other is gonna go straight to your holographic film. Where those two beams kiss, they mess with each other, and the exact timing of that return beam, the one that's bouncing off the object you're scanning, that's gonna dictate what that mess looks like, and that mess is the interference pattern. So then we take that interference pattern and we stamp it into a piece of metal. And all of a sudden we have a flat piece of metal with these little ridges poking up. Those ridges are gonna reflect ambient light in the exact same pattern that original object reflected light off of it. That means when you shine light onto your little card and you tilt it side to side, you're gonna get the same parallax light 3D effect you would as if you were running around that object. I just smooth-brained the heck out of a really complicated scientific thing. If you wanna get like the full physics explanation, go watch this video by 3 Blue 1 Brown. But the point is that real holograms are actually kinda underwhelming. They're just these flat things that sort of create this fake window effect. But what if that Princess Leia digital campfire 3D apparition was real, it's just not a hologram? I'm supposed to be talking about holograms. What am I doing here? Miles, what is that?
What do you mean, what is this? We're here today to talk about the real tech marvel and the sponsor of today's video, Narwhal.
That's right, Narwhal, the Narwhal Flow 2, the greatest robot vacuum ever made. Normal robot vacuums, what do? They run around your house just bumping into stuff like a big little idiot, okay? Narwhal Flow 2, 2 full color cameras, okay? Paired with a VLM, that's a vision language model. That means it can quickly recognize a room, okay? It can find your valuables, it can recognize cables, it knows everything it sees.
Narwhal Flow 2 has an extremely powerful mop. It can heat up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and using artificial intelligence, it can detect whether they go into dry mode or wet mode. Now, while most mops get dirty over time, the Narwhal Flow 2 has a built-in dual tank system right inside the vacuum to make sure you're only using fresh water to clean your floors. And once the mop has picked up all that wastewater, there's actually a stirrer inside of the robot to make sure you're not leaving any nasty residues or odors on the inside.
Both Miles and I own these at home. We love our Narwhal Flow 2s, so click that link in the description and check it out for yourself. But now, back to the video at hand. What if we had a hologram that wasn't technically a hologram, but really felt like a hologram?
Ah, that makes sense. A display with volume.
Exactly. Volume, depth, the big Z. Technically, this is a swept volume display, which uses a trick called persistence of vision to create this sort of 3D effect. Now, what is persistence of vision, you may say?
Yeah.
Look at this picture of a horse. Now 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 look at this picture. Now look at this picture of a horse. Look at this picture of a horse. Now look at this picture of a horse. Now look at this picture. Look at this picture of a horse. If I make the horse pics fly by fast enough, you stop perceiving individual horse pics and start perceiving moving horse. Your brain is piecing all of these images together into one sort of continuous visual experience. Look at this spinning LED fan display we got on Amazon for $30. You take a bunch of LEDs, you spin them around real fast where they're lit up, you get a circle, but if you pulse those LEDs so they're on in the exact same place each rotation, you'll get a dot floating in space, sort of like a pixel.
Okay. So, I mean, then that's kind of like what that is, but maybe they stack a bunch of those spinning fans on top of each other and you get some depth? That sounds pretty easy to pull off.
The VX2 is the perfect example of a piece of tech that is so simple in theory, but as soon as you want to turn it into a functional consumer product, it gets astronomically difficult. This thing spins at 900 RPM. That's like 15 times a second. That's as fast as your car's wheel on the freeway. Yeah, see, the way this thing works is it takes a 3D object and it turns it into a bunch of these vertical slices, right? And then as the LED panels spin around, it displays each one of those 2D slices at exactly the right point. Let's do some quick napkin math here. If it rotates at 15 times a second and loads about 480 slices into a rotation, that means in order to play a 3D video at 30 frames per second, God's frame rate, you need to update the panels on this thing over 7,200 times per second. And moving that fast complicates things even more, right? Because if a single one of those slices is shown at the wrong time, your image starts to flicker and get jumbled and it just becomes really hard to look at. And on top of all this, you still need enough processing power to do error correction because the motor's never gonna spin it at exactly 900 RPM. This thing is only connected to the PC with a single USB 3.0 cable. There's no Thunderbolt, there's no HDMI. It's USB 3.0 delivering all of this data, which means you need one hell of an efficient graphics engine. In order to get a graphics engine so efficient that you can pull all of this off, the guy who wrote it wrote a lot of like the Duke Nukem graphics engine from the 90s, which was like a really ahead of its time first-person shooter graphics engine that let you run 3D graphics on a old 90s computer. Here's another thing you didn't consider, right? How do you get data and power to something that is spinning that fast? If you just ran a normal cable to those panels in there, you'd get instant cable tangle. It would just turn into wire spaghetti inside that little dome, you know?
Yeah.
And so Voxon actually developed a wireless technology. They're getting power to the panels via induction. They're getting all the data transferred wirelessly too. So on top of all the crazy hardware and software Voxon had to develop to make this thing exist, they also then had to beat the literal laws of physics. Because when you spin an LED panel at 900 RPM, it really wants to flex. And what happens when it flexes? Those individual LEDs will be at a slightly different place than they're supposed to be, and your image gets warped and jumbled again. So to defeat this flexing, they came up with two clever solutions. The first is an aluminum frame between those two LED panels that keeps everything nice and rigid. And the second, they build a super elegant solution where the air in there actually moves in laminar flow with the display spinning. There's no turbulence in there. It's smooth. It's smooth, Marquez.
That's so much work, but Ellis, what does it actually do?
Okay, what does it actually do? You would never ask a car manufacturer what a car could do in a world with no roads. I believe Confucius said that. Is it the highest resolution display that's ever existed? No. Does it have the most color accuracy of any display in the studio? No. Does it flicker a little bit when you're in front of it in person? Yes. However, this thing is simultaneously the future because This is really the invention of the digital campfire, the first narrative experiential display that people can stand around and see each other and see the content from 360 degrees. It's a blast from the past because it's made by a group of tinkerers who started in a garage. It's like Apple or Compaq. It's something you don't see that often in tech anymore.
But yeah, having the display before the content is an interesting conundrum. As a reviewer, it's funny. It's like if someone invented mechanically complex McLaren P1 before we had roads, it would be a bad take to say that the car is useless.
But you are
Not
right.
totally wrong though.
No, exactly. Like if you were trying to explain it to a technologist, you'd be like, this is great. If you were trying to convince someone to buy it, you'd be like, eh.
Yeah.
So what does it actually do? Skibbity toilet. And click right here to hear me talk about speakers, other weird experimental new consumer tech stuff. But I gotta go. I got a hot date tonight. So make sure to subscribe to the studio channel. Peace.